So the European Society of Cardiology answers a need, which is that doctors need to exchange. They need to learn what's best practice. They need to know what's been discovered. They need to talk to their colleagues to understand how the colleagues are dealing with the problems. So it's very much a club sort of atmosphere, but it is very important that people can exchange and learn from each other, and that's why we exist. So the footprint of the ESC is quite big compared to most learned societies, but it's big because the problem is big. Cardiovascular diseases is probably the biggest problem with cancer in the health world today. So we have currently a team of 200 permanent staff and just over 2,000 volunteers who contribute on practically a daily basis. But we serve a group of 100,000 members, and we have just over 5 million people who come to the website every year. So in the EU, which is 28 countries, it's practically 4 million deaths a year. But more importantly, it's about 15 million people who are living for a long period with a chronic disease. This means that it's a weight on their families, on the companies they work for, on society. And in the EU, it's been calculated that it's costing just over 210 billion euros a year. So the ESC considered Sophia Antipolis. At the time, they were also considering Germany. They were considering Switzerland, they were considering Belgium, and in fact the area of Sophia Antipolis was chosen because the Technopole was just beginning, that it became obvious that the ESC needed to have a permanent structure, and that the president, who was French at the time, advocated very strongly to come to France. Obviously, the location in the south of France, with its very appealing climate, was one of the factors. One of the other factors which people often underestimate is Nice Airport. It's a fantastic airport. It works very well. It goes to practically everywhere in the world, one way or another. And for us Europeans, you can fly in, fly out in one day. So all of those factors meant that Sophia Antipolis was a very attractive destination to have the Heart House. Well, it played originally because we were considering Sophia Antipolis on the basis that it was going to be a human sciences technopole. That, history has shown, was not exactly the way things happened. In fact, I think we'll probably soon be the only medical society in Sofia. And so for a time we felt a little bit alone and cut off from, after all, what is our base, which is the medical world. But the medical world is changing very rapidly, and the medical world, and cardiology in particular, is becoming digital. And in Sophia, there's now a lot of new technology startups. There's a lot of big companies working on the digital world. And this has become a point which is very important for us, because it means that we're in an environment with what is the future of the medical world, which wasn't the case before. So I think that whereas Sophia Antipolis was a nice place to be, it's now become an important place to be. So to fight the cardiovascular diseases, the ESC is carrying out different activities. The most visible one is the Congress, where we bring together 30,000 cardiologists to find ways to deal with cardiovascular disease. We also now develop a lot around data collection so that we can understand what the trends are, what's happening. One of the major problems in Europe of cardiovascular disease is the disparity across the different countries. In France, in Germany, in Scandinavia, it's easy to find a cardiologist, it's easy to get the right treatment. But if you're living in Bulgaria, Uzbekistan, Hungary, it's much more complicated. So we're trying to develop that exchange, which means that everybody will have access to the treatment. But also, thanks to the data, we can identify what needs to be done to fight against those cardiovascular diseases. I'll give you an example. In 2015, we published a clinical trial. Since the end of the Second World War, out of the 10 years of life expectancy that has been added to people in Western Europe, 7 years and 3 months is because we have been able to manage cardiovascular diseases. So we've been successful. But because we've been successful, people are giving less money for research. They think the problem's finished. It isn't. We've only just started. So we need to continue the fight. Well, I see the future of ESC as being very bright. In a way, unfortunately, because the problems of cardiovascular are continuing, which means that we will continue to need to be there to fight them. Also because people don't realize, but the young generations with the problem of obesity are future cardiovascular patients. They will develop diabetes. A person who has diabetes will see a cardiologist more than they will see an endocrinologist. So the future, unfortunately, of ESC is quite bright. The future of Sophia Antipolis is a very interesting question, and we're very curious. We hope that this new technology startups, we can work with them, because we can see that the future of medicine and the future of the digital world are extremely closely linked. I think that the future of Sophia can be very exciting. It probably needs a bit more support from some of the local or even national authorities, perhaps a bit more international recognition. But I think that potentially here it's very, very exciting.